For an ad-free listening experience and more stories, please check out Sleep Tight Premium. A link can be found in our show notes. Thank you. Hello, friends, and welcome to Sleep Tight Stories. I'd like to wish a special happy belated 6th birthday to Abella on May 5th. Mommy and Daddy love you. Now, on to our story. Nicole has gone through the door again and met Angus. Angus wonders where she went the day before, and they talk about the differences between where they live. Angus invites Nicole to come to his house and try some nice fresh milk, and so they start walking. Nicole and the Box in the Barn, Part 7. As they walked towards the farmhouse, Nicole looked back towards the garden that in her time was full of all kinds of flowers, trees, and berries. Now, it also had row after row of what must have been vegetables, just coming to life from the red soil. Nicole couldn't help but be amazed at the freshness of it all. "You know, it's funny," Nicole said, her gaze wandering over the garden. "Back home, people pay extra for what they call organic and fresh from the farm, like it's something special. Here, it's just the way things are." Angus nodded, a grin spreading across his face. "Yeah, I don't know much about what goes on in the big city, but this is everyday life for us. Of course, in winter, things change a bit." They reached the house and Angus led Nicole around to the back where a few cows grazed peacefully. Nicole thought having the cows eat the grass was preferable to her pushing a lawnmower. One of the cows looked up curiously as they approached. "This is Bessie," Angus introduced. "She's the friendliest of the lot and gives the best milk. We let them graze in different places. My father has the rest of the herd in the field out back. They're pretty smart, like big dogs, except they don't bark." Nicole watched in fascination as Angus grabbed a nearby bucket and expertly began to milk the cow, the fresh milk frothing in the bucket. It was a far cry from the neatly packaged milk cartons stacked in supermarket refrigerators. "She has already been milked today, so she doesn't have much to give, but do you want to give it a try?" Angus asked, offering her the stool. Nicole hesitated, then laughed. "Why not? When in Rome, or should I say, when on PEI, do as the islanders do, right?" Sitting down beside Bessie, Nicole tried mimicking Angus's actions. It was more complicated than it looked, and her first few attempts only splashed a few drops into the bucket. But soon, with some guidance from Angus, she got the hang of it, the milk streaming more consistently. "This is actually kind of fun," Nicole admitted, feeling a bit proud as she watched the milk collect. Angus chuckled, taking over again to finish up. "It can be fun, at least when they aren't in a bad mood. Then my father does the work. He seems to have a way of making them happy." They took the fresh milk back inside, where Angus's mother had laid out some homemade bread and butter. "Who is your new friend, dear?" Angus's mother asked, surprised to see a stranger in their midst. Nicole was suddenly nervous. Angus's mother looked much different than her own. She wore a long, plain cotton dress and a faded apron with a large pocket in the front. Her mother preferred sloppy sweats. "This is Nicole, Mom. She is visiting from Montreal and has never had fresh milk before." "Unbelievable, right?" Angus said. "Hi there," Nicole said quietly. "I didn't know the McDonalds had relatives in Montreal. Is it them who you are visiting, child?" Angus's mother asked with the warmest of smiles. Nicole hesitated to answer. She couldn't tell her that she lived on this farm, but like 100 years in the future. They would call the police and have her sent to the hospital. That is, if they had a phone. And Nicole didn't like to tell a lie. "Well, I am visiting." "Oh, Mom, can we just have a snack? I am hungry and Nicole here has never tried your baking," Angus interrupted. "All right. I want to hear all about Montreal and your trip here to the island. Both of you sit down while I get you a glass for your milk." After her glass was filled, Nicole sipped the warm milk, finding it richer and creamier than anything she'd bought from a store. It was delicious. "Wow, this is really tasty," Nicole said to Angus, wiping the milk stash from around her mouth. "I told you," Angus said. "I bet it's better than the crazy stuff you described." "It sure is," Nicole replied. "It's like drinking unsweetened ice cream." "Oh my, I don't think I have ever heard of milk described like that before," Angus's mother said with a laugh. "Old Bessie does give nice milk. I guess you get your milk delivered in a bottle where you are from?" "My mom goes and buys it, and it tastes nothing like this," Nicole said after having another drink. "You should try my mother's bread. She's the best baker and has even won competitions at the Women's Institute." Nicole grabbed a piece of bread. It was heavier than what she was used to. She bit into the bread and realized it tasted unlike any bread she'd had in Montreal. The crust was thick and satisfyingly crunchy, while the interior was dense and chewy and seemed to burst with flavor in every bite. "Delicious bread," Nicole said after practically inhaling the whole piece. "I told you, the best baker on the island," Angus said. "Oh, Angus, stop. You're exaggerating," Angus's mother said as she sat to have a cup of tea. "So, what is your family name, Nicole? What does your father do for a living in Montreal?" "My last name is McLean," Nicole said. "No way! That's my last name. Are you my distant cousin or long-lost sister or something?" Angus asked. "Well, isn't that something?" Angus's mother replied. "I wouldn't think there would be many of our clan there in Montreal, but you learn something every day. And your father?" "My father is no longer with us. It's just my mother and I. She is a writer, so we used to travel a lot." "I'm sorry, dear. Tell your mother to drop by for tea anytime she feels up to it. And I hope to see you both on Sunday morning. We have a beautiful time with cakes, sandwiches, and fresh tea." "Can I show Nicole around the farm, Mom?" Angus asked as he got up from the table, milk dripping from his chin. "Of course. Just don't get under your father's feet, or he'll have you doing double the chores tomorrow." Angus led Nicole outside, letting the door slam behind them. "Huh, he does that too," Nicole thought. They walked towards the first barn, its white paint bright and unchipped, unlike the peeling exterior Nicole knew in her time. The sides were straight, too. My father built this barn with some of the other community members when we moved to this parcel of land. I was just a baby then, Angus explained. It's mainly for the cows, hay, and some storage. Nicole looked around in awe. The structure stood solid and imposing, and, but for the occasional spider web and small piles of straw, it was spotless. She looked specifically to where, on her version of the farm, her box was. It was nowhere to be seen. It's pretty big. It looks much different than what I am used to, Nicole said, referring to the barn as it looked in her time. Yeah, I guess you don't have many big barns like this in Montreal, Angus said with a laugh. They moved on to the smaller second barn, which housed the farm's horses. The smell of fresh hay and the sound of horses moving restlessly in their stalls filled the air. And this is where we keep the horses, Angus said, opening the door to let Nicole peek inside. They are important as they help us with the fields and sometimes for getting into town. We used to have pigs here too, but my father decided to keep a few over at the McDonald's farm for now. Nicole leaned against the door, watching the animals with fascination. I haven't seen many horses, well, except in winter when we have sleigh rides, but I have ridden an elephant. You what? Was it at a zoo or something? I have a book in the house about India, and it has pictures of elephants in it, but that's all I have ever seen of elephants. It must have been amazing, Angus said excitedly. It's like riding a big horse with a trunk, I guess, Nicole said with a chuckle. As they walked between the barns, Angus pointed out various tools and explained their uses. Each piece had a purpose and history. Every tool here has a story. Some were my great-grandfather's. We fix them up and keep using them. Nothing goes to waste, he said with a hint of pride. Nicole listened intently, her mind racing with comparisons to her life in Montreal, where everything was disposable and new. People back home could learn a lot from this way of living, she mused aloud. Angus nodded, leading her out to the fields. It's a slow pace of life here, that's for sure. They reached the garden's edge with its neat rows of vegetables. Angus picked a carrot from the ground, washed it with water from his flask, and handed it to Nicole. Try this. It's as fresh as it gets. Nicole bit into the carrot with a loud crunch. The taste was sweet and earthy, bursting with a flavor she had never tasted in store-bought vegetables. This is amazing, she said, her voice full of genuine surprise. Everything here is so real. Yeah, it's simple stuff, but it's good stuff, Angus replied with a smile. Glad you like it. As they walked, they continued to talk about everything and nothing. Though from different times and places, they had a lot in common. There aren't a lot of kids around here, and it can get boring when I'm not doing chores. We could explore the back fields if you want to come by. There is even a stream back there with some fish in it. And I heard a rumor that there might even be bears there. Though my father said there haven't ever been bears here on the island. Angus, I need your help over here, son, his father yelled from across the farm. My father is fixing some fences this afternoon and needs my help. You could come over and help too if you want. I think I should probably head home before my mother starts worrying, Nicole said. Yeah, mothers do that. Will you come back to visit? I'm done my chores in the morning and most afternoons are free. I can show you the back fields and other places. We could even play tricks on our old cat." "Sure, I will come over tomorrow if the weather is fine." "All right, Nicole. See you later," Angus said as he ran to where his father was calling from. "Thank you for the milk and bread," Nicole yelled after him. After watching Angus disappear behind the barn where the horses were kept, Nicole walked through the garden towards the door. As she placed her hand on the door's worn wooden frame, she paused, pinching her cheek. It hurt. I guess this really isn't a dream. How do I tell my mother that I am traveling back in time and have met a new friend? With a deep breath, she stepped through the doorway, the familiar shimmer enveloping her as she crossed the threshold back into her time. Instantly, the sounds of the old farm were replaced by the quieter, more subdued tones of her modern garden, and the vegetables were replaced by flowers and berries. Nicole stood there for a few seconds, letting her eyes adjust to the change in light. The garden was still beautiful, but the vegetables were replaced by flowers and berries. The whole farm seemed to lack the lively spark of the older version. It felt like she had stepped out of a vivid dream into a faded reality. Just then, her mother's voice called out, slicing through her reverie. "Nicole, it's time to come in. Dinner's almost ready." Nicole blinked, her mother's voice bringing her back into the present, and she was surprisingly hungry. "Time travel must increase my appetite," she said, laughing as she ran towards her faded home. And that's the end of this part. Good night. Sleep tight.